Hi guys, it's Mary McIntyre. Welcome back to another video. You may remember last year that I bought these holographic butterfly molds. The molds are holographic. So the way that silicone holographic molds work is that the holographic texture is actually a micro texture within the mold that diffracts light. And that micro texture translates into resin. So when you make a resin piece with a mold that has that kind of diffraction pattern in it, the holographic pattern, the finished piece will be holographic. So I made these butterflies last year. I've made loads of them since. Most of my friends have had one as a gift, and I've sold a few at craft fairs. I love them so much. So I really like the clear ones because the sun can shine through on both sides and you can add glitter and it kind of looks beautiful either way, especially when you've got the Suncatcher chain that is also beautiful. But I really want to try making these with black resin. Now I've seen Naptime Creations is the channel where I first started seeing these sorts of holographic molds. I've seen her make some black ones and they looked absolutely beautiful. So I want to have a go at making them and see what they look like in person. So I've got 4 molds here. I've got 3 butterflies and a hummingbird. So hopefully you can see that they are all holographic. I just can't stop doing this with my torch. I think they're beautiful. So what I'm going to do is just make them with black resin. It's super easy. There's no glitter needs to be added or anything. You just basically pour the black resin in, and when you demold it, hopefully that holographic texture will be on the surface. When I first started making these for the 2 butterflies, that are a bit smaller, I was hanging them using the chain from the center here. I'll talk about why I don't do that anymore when we get to that part of the video. The resin that I'm using for this is the Apex High Gloss Finish resin, and I'm going to be colouring it with the Vista black liquid pigment. So this resin is really good at not creating bubbles, and particularly with black resin, you can't see where all the bubbles are being caught on these etched sort of features that are in here. It's pretty much impossible to make these without some bubbles, even when they're clear. You can spend like 3 hours popping bubbles and still more will accumulate on these kind of really fine embossed details. But to be honest, they kind of look like part of the design anyway, so I've given up on worrying about that. But I am going to just do them in black, use a resin that I know is really good for not producing tons of bubbles. It's been in a warm place so that when I mix it up, it's not going to have as many bubbles in it. I always mix for 5 minutes. I time that and do it slowly. Try to stir in the same direction so you're not adding air, all of that stuff, the usual way that I mix my resin. The Vista black pigment, you can go up to 2% of your resin volume with this, and otherwise it'll start to affect the cure time. I want it to be nice and black. I'm using this resin for another project and it needs to be really dark. So I'm going to add a ton of this, and if it takes longer to cure, it takes longer to cure, but hopefully it'll be okay. It's a very pigmented colorant, so yeah, it's really good. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how these turn out. So let's get started. Okay, I'm back. It's been 24 hours since I poured this this set of butterflies. We don't have any natural sunlight today, but I do have a torch, so hopefully we'll be able to see what they look like holographic wise with the black resin. I've seen other creators make butterflies and stuff with holographic molds with black resin, and I think they look really cool, so hopefully these will as well. See if I can actually demold these and not have too many air bubbles. The trouble with pouring with black is you can't see where the air is getting trapped in those embossing details, so bit of a nightmare. But with these, because of all those details, I think sometimes the air bubbles look like part of the design almost, so you just kind of have to, they're never going to be totally free of bubbles with this sort of intricate mould. Okay, let's flip these guys over and see what we've got. Oh, they're definitely holographic. Oh yeah. Do a little bit of trimming. So, if I get my torch on these, hopefully you'll be able to see. Look at that. Oh my word. So in sunlight they do this naturally, and the clear ones do anyway, so when the sun shines on those, it's going to be absolutely incredible. Wow. So beautiful. Little hummingbird. Wow. Just incredible. Absolutely incredible. So the way that I want to finish these is to add my Suncatcher beads. In the past when I've made these, I've added the hanging stuff from the centre on the smaller ones because there's a little hole there, but it does make them hang sometimes a bit wonky. If there's any differences in the pouring depth, they don't sit straight. So what I've been doing recently is either drilling holes in the sides and putting little rings there so that it can hang from the centre and be supported on both sides. You could do that, or you could drill down into them with a little eyelet hook, but these are so thin that I don't think that'll work. So I'm going to do it the other way. So I'll get my stuff and make the hangers for them. So this is my Suncatcher beads. They look really beautiful in the sunlight. This is a little hand drill, so I prefer to use this because you kind of have more control. So what I do is look for anywhere that there is a natural feature that I can sort of drill through. So on this big one, for example, you can see that there are these little kind of embossed details in the corner, so I tend to just drill through there. So I will just go from the corner of that and just slowly drill through, and once I'm kind of through, I'll lift it up so I'm not drilling a hole in my desk. It's really easy to get through. It's only a thin mould. It's not very deep, so there isn't a lot of resin to go through. So the holes are quite small. Try to get them in the same place on both. Okay, with the bird, I kind of like to hang it from this wing rather than this one because that kind of makes it hang kind of pointed a bit weirdly, so I like to just find a spot within the embossing there, hang it from that spot. Now I find that I feel more secure using a split ring rather than a jump ring, so I use these. So it's like the ones that you have a key ring on rather than one that you open and then pull closed, because I just feel that the string could easily kind of come through the gap where the jump ring meets, whereas these split rings are solid, so once these are on they're not going anywhere. So they're a bit fiddly to get on. Go from the back just in case you scratch it. So they are fiddly, there's no doubt about it, they are fiddlier, but I just feel more secure that the hanging will be more stable on these. Bit of a faff, but you can see that that's on, and when you thread the end of the string through with the beads on, you know that it's not going to fail because of a meeting point of the jump ring. So that's those two on, so I'll come back when I've got those on the others. The Suncatcher beads are already on a pretty substantial invisible thread, like a nylon thread. You need to be able to tie these and then thread the excess off. So although I like to have the chain as long as possible, sometimes you need to take a few beads off because this length of cord is just not quite long enough to give you enough of the ends to be able to tie things off. So that one's kind of almost long enough, and the last bead has kind of had the thread wound round it so that it won't slide off. This is really fiddly, but thread this through and tie it onto the ring, and then the end that's left we need to thread through. Do you know what, I'm going to take a few beads off this because it's just not long enough. It makes life so much easier if you've got a bit of thread to work with, and this is just too short. So I'm going to remove a few of those beads just to give myself a little bit more to play with. So the last one, you kind of bring it round and thread the thread back through the bead so that it wraps around the bead. That way it holds the last bead up the chain and it's not going to keep sliding down and getting in the way. So thread that back through. I actually find it easier because of my grip problems. I find it really a lot easier to use my right angled tweezers for this because it can just give you a little bit more control. So especially if the thread has any kinks in it. So I'm gonna pull that tight, pull that back through. So that last bead is kind of knotted in place now. So just pick this up and tie it, like do sort of 3 knots to make sure that it's just properly secure. You want it to be really, really secure. So this is where I find the tweezers help, because you can kind of poke them through, pull the thread, and then get that nice and tight. Okay, we'll sort the ends out in a minute. So we're probably going to have to take some beads off the other end as well. So ideally you need an even number of beads because we're going to put a loop in the center. So if you've got an odd number of beads, it will hang very slightly asymmetrically, which you don't want. So I'm going to take a few beads off here so I've got a little bit to work with. Count the beads, make sure that I have an even number. Okay, so now I've got a little bit more thread to work with this end. I'm going to do the same thing. Make sure that that chain of beads is nice and snug, and I'm going to bring this end through around the bead and back through the center just to knot that bead in place. This is so fiddly, this thread is a nightmare to work with. So once you've got the end, you can pull that taut there. So now we have a long tail, so do exactly the same. Tie it around here. So we now have the Suncatcher thread and that. We also have these tails which are unsightly, so to deal with that, get a beading needle. Now you can make one of these yourself by twisting some wire, but it has a collapsible eye, so it's basically just it's one piece of wire that's been folded in half and twisted, but you thread the thread through the collapsible eye, and then this is so thin that it will pass through the middle of the beads, and it's really helpful for this kind of thing. So what I tend to do is thread the needle through the beads first, because the springy thread will just come out of the eye. So just make sure that you're going up through the center of all the beads for about the length of the thread that you have. The longer the better. The shorter pieces will just spring back out again, which is not the end of the world, but it just looks neater having them out of sight. So it's another reason why I like to just have a little bit more thread visible at the end. So I've got that through. You need to be able to get the end out. So what I'm going to do is get the thread through the collapsible needle, and it springs straight back out. Go through again. Pull that through. Then I'm going to use, I should be able to grip that, just pull that through, and that will pull the thread through that string of beads. We'll pull the end through, and then you can just nip that off. Where have my scissors gone? There we go. So that will then be out of sight. It's tucked away inside the thread of beads, and hopefully will stay out of sight. So just nick that end off, and you can see that you now have a neat end with no threads. So this short one may spring back out again, but we can try. Now get that thread through the eye of that needle. And pull it through. That's those ends hidden. So now find the halfway point, and we need to use some more nylon thread, which I have some of here. I have a real love-hate with this stuff. Mostly hate, but it is really useful to have. So pull off a length of that. Get another one of these split rings to use as a hanger. I'm going to fold this in half and attach the ring using a, loop it and then pull the ends through the loop, so it'll make that nice and secure. Like that. So now we have a loop and a load of thread. So find your halfway point on your butterfly, tie the threads through. So I've made this super long purely because it's easier to handle with some longer ends. Okay, that's now in the center. Treble knots. quadruple knot in fact. I'm going to do, okay, that's good and tight. So beading needle again to weave those ends in. I tend to split the thread and do one down each side. There you go. So repeat that for the others. So here they are finished. I love them so much that I've made a couple more. The sun's not coming out, not plain ball. If I manage to get a clip with natural sunlight, I will add it in to the end of this video. But yeah, that holographic texture has really come out. It's just so beautiful. And although it's hard to see with the torch, these beads also diffract the sun, I should say, and create lovely rainbow patterns that shimmer onto the room, and they're just absolutely gorgeous. I really like these Suncatcher beads. I know that the light doesn't shine through them in the same way, but boy, aren't they gorgeous when the light hits them. The science here, the witchcraft with the holographic molds just really blow my mind. I think it's so beautiful. I'm so happy that I did this. I was in two minds whether I would like the black, but the kind of inner goth in me just really likes the black butterflies and the fact they've got that secret, gorgeous, colourful flash as they turn in the sun. It's just me. I think this is just me in a project. I love it so much. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you in the next one. Bye for now.